The following video has been rated PG-13 for, it's pretty good, if you're 13. Boring! Returning to Walt Disney's original Magic Kingdom.
Because it's the commemorative 100th episode, so join us today from Disneyland as we do just a little Splorin. Now, I've been here several times before in the past, and, this shouldn't be anything new, but I really forgot how small it is in this area. The scope of this entire park is just so much smaller.
In Florida, the area between the turnstiles and the train station is I'd say probably 3 times the size of this. But, they built this in the middle of the downtown area, so making the most of what they got. The train station tends to be a little bit smaller too, but there's a certain charm to that. And we certainly don't have that. We certainly don't have that either. That car right there has a lot of history to it.
Now, I could be wrong, maybe that's a different one, but I know Walt had a personal car for the train, because he was really big in the trains, and he had one that he had just for himself and his guests, so we don't have that, because we didn't have Walt.
Another big change right off the top is this. This train station is so much smaller, and our version would have openings right here for strollers, which, I'm pretty sure they got the strollers. Although I understand yesterday they banned large strollers. I always come in the right-hand side, and right away, it's a completely different feel. Different buildings, everything is different. In California, they've got the Disneyland gifts. This would be where you'd go to meet Mickey and Tinkerbell and some other people in Florida. I'm sure they're still around, but they're not here. In fact, the entire town square is completely changed. We don't have Tony's restaurant over there, which is Lady and the Tramp. Looks like they've got great moments with Mr. Lincoln, which, we'll get into that. Some of that stuff over there looks pretty similar, but then you turn over here, their City Hall is completely changed up too. It's right up on the street. Florida, it's pushed back quite a ways with a little courtyard. I have to say, even though this is smaller, I am a much bigger fan of their train station. The landscaping, to me at least, is a lot better. It's got that old world charm. The other one's just too grand, too big. Looking down the main thoroughfare, it goes all the way down to the castle. Now, we've got Cinderella's castle. This is Sleeping Beauty castle, and it's much smaller. But unfortunately, today, it looks like they've got that printed tarp up again, or the scrim, if you will. This is something that goes up every couple of years, it seems, when they're doing refurbishments. Looks like I'm not going to see the castle today, folks. Sorry about that. One of the other big changes is that here in California, the characters tend to walk around a lot more. They're more free-floating. You can see the Thompson twins, or whatever they're called, and Pluto, and Big Pluto, and the 2 engineers from Thomas the Tank Engine. Well, they just walk around here.
For crowd control reasons in Florida, they do more of experiences where you actually have to go to them, and usually they're in a building with some themed, backdrops and lines and lines.
Their old-timey vehicles seem to get out a lot more than ours do too.
And there's the Chippendale looking and petting a horse. Looks like he's getting ready to do something. He's gonna punch that guy, isn't he? Gee, I hope he doesn't punch that guy. So this is it. This is the big 100th episode of Splorin. I'm really pretty darn excited about it. Didn't think we'd get to 100 episodes, which is kind of why I figured I'd celebrate by breaking the whole no Disney thing by coming to Disney, but coming to a different Disney. And show some stuff that I haven't shown, that I haven't seen shown a million times over. No cupcakes, no mini ears, no walls. Sorry, guys. This is all about the history of the park.
This one's great moments with Mr. Lincoln, and this is one of the earlier animatronics that have been floating around. Walt actually had a hand in this particular attraction, though I know it's been changed over the years a couple times. walking into the attraction, it looks like they've got a little bit of a Dumbo thing going on right now.
I was just informed that because of this whole Dumbo thing, they don't have Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln out right now, so I'm not going to be able to show you the original animatronic, which is kind of a bummer. But I did find something in here that is almost as good.
And that would be this. I do believe that this is actually the park map as to how it looked on opening day. There's a couple things left over. Obviously the Jungle Cruise is still here, although it's been changed up a little bit over the years. The Rivers of America is still there. Of course the castle and Casey Jr. are still up there. But I know that when the park opened, it was pretty unfinished. They just didn't have enough time or money to do a whole lot. You can see that represented in all the dirt fields that are still out here. And they're certainly not here anymore. I know that Walt and Roy were able to make sure that they saved quite a bit of money by keeping Frontierland looking authentic. And by that, I mean they kept a lot of dirt, a lot of open spaces, and a lot of rocks.
You call it cheap. I call it cheap and innovative.
Looks like Mickey's outside signing autographs, and there's a line probably of about, I don't know, 20, 30 people. Back in Florida, these people would have waited a good 45 minutes to 2 hours to meet the mouse. And you certainly wouldn't see Goofy walking around without a trail of people. And bodyguards. Most people are already aware of this, but I think it bears repeating for those of you that don't. Above this rather unassuming fire department is a window with a lamp in it. That lamp has been burning for years and will be left burning. That was Walt Disney's personal apartment here. That lamp will always burn in respect for the man that created all of this. And that fire pole right there actually goes up into the apartment, or at least it did. I wouldn't be surprised if it's blocked off now. That's a fail. Another big difference back in Orlando, this would be where the barbershop is, and that's actually where I got my son's first haircut taken. We also don't have that guy. We do, however, have this, well, a version of this. It's the Emporium, and it's the giant gift shop.
This version of the gift shop just stretches out over the entire Main Street, well, at least most of it. Crazy enough, ours is still bigger.
I think the Disneyland one is a little bit nicer, though. They've got more ornate woodwork. It all seems more authentic, and I think a lot of that has to do
with some of the differences of who's coming to the parks. Now, here in California, they get a lot of locals. They get a lot of people who are coming in here from around the area who love it and treasure it and probably a little bit more respectful of it. Back home in Orlando, there's a lot more people coming, and a lot of them are tourists coming from all over the world. And that plays heck on everything. The amount of refurbishment and maintenance that has to be done is crazy.
Their store seems to have a lot more stories being told as well. Like, right up there, we do not have a scary barber in ours. Above the cashier, or really anywhere else. Nor do we have a parrot parlor, or nightmare children trying on clothes.
Don't get me wrong, the Magic Kingdom, we have plenty of nightmare children.
Something else that's hard to believe, as we come out the first store, we are already halfway down their version of Main Street.
So much smaller, dare I say, cozy. I'm also not entirely sure that we still have this guy.
Hello, my friends. The signs on these buildings are a lot more ornate and elaborate as well.
Actually, if you walk down here, it's not just the size that's different. In fact, if you look around, these buildings, they're not even really supposed to be in the same part of the country. Most people don't realize this, but the Main Street here and the Main Street over at the Magic Kingdom of Florida are actually designed off of two completely different regions of the U.S. A couple of decades apart, too. Same thing with Frontierland. It's not the same area. A lot of people actually seem unaware as well that the windows up here, they've all got names. Well, a lot of them have names. And the names actually mean something. Like, all these windows, the names, they're real people. They're the people who built this.
For instance, one of the first windows right there is Elias Disney, contractor.
And Elias is actually, or was actually, Walt and Roy's father. Was he a contractor? Well, he was a lot of things, actually.
See the real thing? What?
We have these little alleys in our Magic Kingdom on Main Street, but these are, a little bit more useful. There's actually things to do here. There's more stores, there's things to eat, places to sit. Apparently you can get a tooth pulled over there, which I wouldn't recommend. Looks like these guys still have the gas-powered lamps, too. Pretty sure we don't have those in Florida.
Right here's one that I was looking for.
It's the Palm Parlor with the window for Roland E. Crump.
See, while these buildings have always been here, well, at least, since 1950-aught, there were different things here, and they didn't all used to be just big nondescript gift shops. Like, they had a Frederick's of Hollywood, strangely. They had a place where you could buy china and dishes. They had a magic shop, and in the magic shop, a man by the name of Wally Bogue taught a young Steve Martin the art of magic and comedy. Thank you, Wally.
If you move at a brisk pace, it's easy to take the entire Main Street USA in about 35 seconds. But boy, you'll miss so very much. Coming around the corner, I forgot, they don't have Tomorrowland right there. They've got, I believe that would be the world-famous Plaza Inn. And as you can see, the Plaza Inn is very, very popular, even before it opens. And coming this way, they don't have Casey's. Look at this Coca-Cola restaurant. The Corner Cafe. And right into what takes the place of the Crystal Palace, which I believe is the Jolly Holiday. And considering I haven't had breakfast yet, that might be a good start. The park has been open for about a half an hour right now, and if I was back in the Magic Kingdom, I'd be waiting for lines coming out of everything. But here, I can just walk right in. I love it. And it does appear that they've got some very festive choices.
And now that I'm properly armed with caffeine, let's see what else there is.
Well, for starters, there's that. And there's also this. No, not the castle, not the popcorn cart, not the people walking around. It's actually the people who aren't walking around. I can actually walk through the hub. That's incredible.
I am so happy right now.
Well, one thing is the same. Very, very brave Disney ducks. As I pointed out, Tomorrowland isn't right there, but it is right on top of the hub. There's no bridge over water over there. And they do still have the partner statue. In this case, the original partner statue. Lesser known secret, if you go to the side of the castle, and a lot of people don't because there's no rides back here, you can find this. Snow White Grotto and her wishing well. As I understand, these were a gift to Walt Disney years back, carved out of soapstone by a school. All of the dwarfs, some of the animals, and of course, Snow White herself.
The catch is that they're all the same size, so they built this grotto in such a way that you could put her at the top, make it look like she's taller than the rest of them. Alright, we'll get back to the history in a couple minutes. Right now, let's ride some rides.
Starting perhaps with this beast. I give you the Matterhorn, the world's first tubular steel roller coaster. Entertaining guests since the late 50s, this roller coaster used to be hollow and just a regular roller coaster. But now it's much, much more, as those screams will probably tell you. It is kind of weird being at a Disney park and looking out over the berm and seeing a Courtyard by Marriott.
Alright, let's do this. Not exactly the most comfortable seating.
And here we go. And then back on solid ground.
A couple of quick notes about the Matterhorn. It's not what you would call a rough roller coaster. In fact, it's actually very smooth. It's not huge on hills, but there's some good turns to it. If you're bringing your kids on it, there are a couple of animatronic bumbles, if you will, that'll jump out at you, but nothing bad. Wow, the seats though, little uncomfortable. It's one-seaters, so you open your thighs, and the person in front of you, their seat pushes back into you. So, you might want to do a couple of thigh muscle workouts first.
Once you get off the Matterhorn, right across from it, you can see over here, this is their version of the Mad Tea Party. Ours is inside, or at least in a canopy in Orlando, because it rains pretty much every day. But it doesn't rain here in Los Angeles all that often. They've also got the Alice in Wonderland Dark Ride, which we do not have, which is too bad. As I remember, it's actually kind of fun. Another huge difference is Small World. Ours is pretty unassuming, and again, indoors. Their version actually comes to us from the 1964 World's Fair. So this is the original, and obviously it was put here after it had been someplace else. So that's why it kind of sticks out a little bit more. But would you look at how huge this is? I usually try to avoid this ride, but I think this time I'm going to have to do it. Definitely a far grander entrance to the ride. So how funny would it be if I just played the Small World theme song over and over for the rest of this video? Not very funny, right? Oh yeah, very different beginning. Peter Pan. Okay, wow, so that's not the same ride. Like, this version's got all the IP characters in it, it's got the Pixar people, the animatronics are a little bit more lively. It's a better ride. I have no desire to get back on it right now, but it's a better ride. And straight ahead is one of the other big changes of this park. They still have their Mickey Toontown. In Orlando, we had Mickey's Toontown, which then turned into Mickey's Toontown Fair in an attempt to kind of explain why there were two Mickey Toontowns, one in Los Angeles, one in Orlando. But they bulldozed ours a couple of years ago to expand Fantasyland. This version of Toontown popped up right around the same time that DuckTales was really popular and Roger Rabbit was kind of sweeping the entire nation. So they're trying to capitalize on that a little bit. And while most references to Roger Rabbit have been completely torn out of the Orlando parks, they are still alive and well here in California, including a Roger Rabbit ride. Looks like we're gonna spin.
Your cab will begin moving in just a moment.
If you like the old school dark rides, the original Snow White, the Peter Pan, all that stuff, Roger Rabbit, check it out. One interesting thing about back here is you will find very few straight lines, and you're definitely not going to find any real right angles in any of the buildings. That's what we call a Tampa J-fact. Looks like they still got Minnie's house, Mickey's house, the Chip and Dale treehouse, and Donald's boat. Also behind Donald's boat is the Gadget Go Coaster, which is, you know, an answer to our own Goofy roller coaster at the Magic Kingdom. This one themed after Gadget from the old Rescue Rangers cartoon, which a lot of you probably don't even really remember, but that was a thing in like 91 through 94-ish? Don't quote me on that. It's not a hashtag J-fact. The park has been open for about 3 hours now, and as you can see, things are starting to get a little bit, busier. Lines are starting to form. This one right here is, I believe, for the Storyland Canal boats, which is sort of left over from the opening era of rides. I say sort of because it's not really the same thing. I mean, they had this, but there was no money or time to finish it, so it was just boats driving by piles of dirt. That's usually a joke I would make, but in this case, it was boats driving by piles of dirt. Disney dirt. Oh, this is a sight for sore eyes. It's the original Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. We had this. They removed it like, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. And I've never really forgiven them for it. We have to do this now. As far as dark rides go, this one is fairly low tech. This one is literally left over from the original lineup, and it's been updated a little bit, but it's still a lot of like cardboard cutouts and things, which to younger folks that haven't seen this kind of stuff before and have grown up with things like Harry Potter, this probably
would seem a little boring, but it's got an old world charm that you just can't beat. Tons of old school fun, and I could not begin to tell you how much I missed that. Time to grab ourselves a little snack, and I think this time we're going to go with the corn dog, which is supposed to be fantastic here, or, as it's known by our friend Sean from Negro Orlando, the pimp steak. I gotta say, Deshaun knows his fried pimp steaks.
And this puts us right next to the Golden Horseshoe, which, you know, has its own little place in history. A couple, actually.
Not only is this left over from Walt's days and one of the earlier attractions, but there's a couple things in here that I think you should see.
This is the theater that housed what was, up until the 80s, mid-80s at least, the longest running stage show ever. It was put together by Mr. Wally Bogue, who is also the man who taught Steve Martin his craft.
Wally got this whole thing put together. It was a stage show, Western themed, where they had a lot of, you know, slapstick comedy and magic and all that stuff. When Magic Kingdom opened, they moved Mr. Bogue out to the Magic Kingdom for a while, and he got the Diamond Horseshoe going, and then came back here where he finished his career. Unfortunately, Mr. Bogue passed away in the earlier part of the decade, but he left one heck of a legacy.
Much like Orlando, they do have a Tom Sawyer's Island here, though theirs tends to be quite a bit different. Last time I was here, it was themed like the Pirates of the Caribbean. I do believe they've moved it back to the Mark Twain feel, though. Oh, and it's not on the shores just of Frontierland like it is in Orlando. Right here, it's also on the shores of New Orleans Square, something we don't have at all. When I got in this line, the sign said 25 minutes. I'm kind of hoping that the 40 doesn't apply to me.
If you've been at the Pirates of the Caribbean at the East Coast Park, the Magic Kingdom, it's a good ride. It's a classic. This one is far superior. Kind of like the whole Small World thing. There are some rides at Magic Kingdom that are done better. Like the Magic Kingdom has a much better version of the Jungle Cruise, for instance. But this version of the Pirates of the Caribbean, it's hard to go back after watching this one.
We're moving around outside, and then heading into a, well, New Orleans themed building.
Whereas at the Magic Kingdom, you're in sort of like a Spanish fortress. Queuing area-wise, I would probably give it to the Magic Kingdom. But, you know, looks can be deceiving.
This is certainly not a Spanish fort. And once you get inside, it changes a lot, too. Once you load the boat, finally, you find yourself across from the Blue Bayou restaurant, which kind of looks like an outdoor scene at a New Orleans mansion.
Whereas at the Magic Kingdom, when you get on, you're kind of down in like a cave, and you can see where they've been burying treasure. That's probably a little bit more on the nose for pirates, but this is a lot more atmospheric, if you will.
This is an entire scene that we do not have in Orlando. Much like the Orlando version, this one drops you off into the cave area, but this one has two drops to get you there, mainly because here in California they had to drop you down underneath the berm of the train. You also go into this, I don't know, ghostly pirate area, I guess? Looks like skeletons, but as you can tell from that guy, they're still kind of moving and animated. I've got what I assume is the captain over there, and there's a scene up ahead that has a cool little Easter egg. Oh, by the way, that skull above his head, yeah, that's real. Easter egg time, folks. You see all this pirate treasure here? They actually have, right over here, yeah, that's the actual treasure chest from the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Yeah, these guys seem to be in a lot more danger than the pirates in Orlando. We don't have this scene at all. Looks like a burning building. Likewise, this scene is missing from Orlando.
And as you get off, you are immediately dropped right into New Orleans Square, which is, you know, right here.
Couldn't tell you if it's overly authentic, but I kind of like it. A quick libation at the Mint Julep Bar before we get back to things.
Not bad.
And then off to the Haunted Mansion, which looks quite a bit different than the Orlando version. One big difference in the Haunted Mansion is here on the West Coast, it's supposed to look like the carriages, the doom buggies, are coming in from the void, whereas in Orlando, they're just coming in from the hallway. This is definitely a little bit more eerie. Moving into the attic scene, a lot of big differences in here too. Not as many spider webs. Looks a lot cleaner in here. They still have the bride, of course. But on top of that, this particular version also has the Hatbox Ghost.
Well, we've taken the train to Tomorrowland, which is a lot like our Tomorrowland, only a lot smaller.
First thing that you'll notice is the Wedway People Mover, the Tomorrowland Transit Authority, is not here. They turned it into the Rocket Rods maybe 25-ish years ago, and it failed miserably, and now it's just gone. I understand it's because it would cost too much to refurbish the entire track, which would, you know, collapse otherwise, so maybe we're better off without it? I don't know. They've got their version of the Star Wars launch bay inside of this building, which used to be the area where they would have the Carousel of Progress, which is obviously over at Disney World now in the Magic Kingdom. This Moonliner is a little bit of a throwback. There has been some sort of rocket ship here pretty much through every incarnation of Tomorrowland.
If I remember correctly, the original Tomorrowland was supposed to show the futuristic world of 1985, which, you know, obviously we're now, what, 35-ish years away from that one? So they've changed it a couple times. The most recent version is the future that never will be.
We certainly don't have this in any of our gift shops. Or these two guys. One of my favorite rides at any park growing up was always 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which was gone for quite a while, but has kind of resurfaced as Nemo's Submarine Voyage. Very pleasant. I'm getting dripped on from the hatch right above my head.
May be unpredictable. Please remain seated at all times. My induction plugs.
Rise up report on the way.
Let's go.
Conveniently located just at the exit of the whole submarine thing is the monorail, which is a little bit different here than it is back home. The interior of the monorail certainly has a different look to it, doesn't it? Kind of an interesting fact on this shooting gallery. It's been here forever. They use lasers now, like most of these things do. But when this thing first opened, they were using BBs,
which meant that each and every night they were coming back out here and repainting the entire thing, which, you know, can be a little tedious.
Right next to it is the Rancho del Zalaco Restaurante, which is located in this beautiful courtyard. No, this restaurant gets its claim to fame because this is where Fritos were invented. It's been redone considerably over the years, but Fritos were actually invented here when they had extra tortillas and they'd fry them up and, well, there we go. I'm not really a Mexican food guy, so we're just gonna mosey on our way back into Frontierland and see what else there is. Would you look at the size of that freaking cactus? Another leftover from opening day is the Mark Twain Steamboat.
After we arrive back at the landing at Frontierland, as we head into the remote areas of the rivers of America, off the port side of the river is a wise.
And that translates perhaps just a little unnaturally into Adventureland. other than Main Street USA, this area is one of the more untouched ones. Oh, there's new stuff, no doubt about it.
But there's a whole lot of Walt here too.
Speaking of classic attractions left over from opening day, this one certainly counts.
Look at this. That is an Indo-Chinese tiger. Bamboo can grow to be 6 stories tall. Some experts say it's 7, but folks, that's a whole other story. Science was able to make it kill. It's a really good example. Sam, everyone say, hi Sam. Hi Sam. That's all I gotta say about Sam. Everyone say, bye Sam. Bye Sam.
Getting a little dusky out here. I give you Alice in Wonderland. Well, here's a view that I'd never be able to time right again. Well, this is trippy.
The white rabbit. Wow. Now 60 back. We'll soon be dead. Oh, yes, we go ahead.
Well, there's something you don't see every day, or at least I don't see every day. They don't seem overly concerned, so I'm just going to assume that he's not about to die. But hey, look over here, it's the Riverbell Terrace, with a duck on the roof. Back in the day when Walt was spending a lot of time here at the parks, he'd come out here in the morning, eat breakfast here at the Riverbell. That way he could sit on the porch and look across to the rivers of America, where they have apparently rescued that young man that was in the water. And now, with all the attractions and rides that I wanted to hit today, done and out of the way, there's one thing left I've got to do tonight. And it begins with a trip back down Main Street where we came in. And right back up to where I began, at the top of the train station on Main Street. This has been a particularly long episode of Splorin, and I really do appreciate you guys have stuck around this long. 100 episodes. It's crazy. I know a lot of vloggers have been around much shorter periods of time than I have, and they're much further along than 100 episodes, but I never really started this whole thing with the intent of, making anything big. I honestly just started because I needed a little bit of an outlet. Something to get out and do. See, when my family and I moved to Orlando in 2012, I didn't really know a whole lot of people in town. I knew a few people, and I had some family there, but I had a pretty good tribe back in Cleveland. When I got to Orlando, I didn't have the same support system. So I started vlogging as a way to, get out there, be active, have some creative outlet. And I'm happy to say that over the course of the 100 episodes I've done, I've actually found that tribe. I've made some great friends, honestly some of the best friends I've ever had by doing this vlog. I've gone to some really cool places, I've had great experiences. It's been fantastic. It's taken a lot out of me at the same time, and I will say that as much as I love it, I go through periods where it's a little harder than other periods to keep churning out the content. It's kind of why it was so important that for the 100th episode, I do it here. This is, at the very beginning, this is the place that I wanted to film the most, but it seemed the least accessible. It was on the other side of the country. I've got a family, I've got bills to pay. It's not always cheap to just drop everything and run across the country just to film a vlog. But, the stars aligned, and they put me here right in time for the 100th episode. I don't believe in coincidence. And so looking out over Main Street from what is honestly one of the most beautiful vantage points I've ever had, I gotta say, I can actually stop right now and be perfectly happy.
But I don't think I'm going to. Not just yet. There's still a few more things I want to get done before I do. So, from Walt's Original Magic Kingdom here at Disneyland, California, big thank you from me to you. And I hope you'll join us next time when we do just a little more Splorin.